Braxcast time once again, guys. This is the 76th episode of the Braxcast, and it is a pretty exciting episode because we've got a bunch of stuff to talk about. And I think the first thing, not to bury the lead here or anything, is to get into the fulfillment of Rippazine number 4. Of course, Yaira'S started its fulfillment, I believe, Friday of the a little over a week ago or so, and now Rippazine 4 is fulfilling basically right after that. It started on the 21st of August. So if you put in an order for Rippazine number 4, you most likely will be getting that shipping notification soon. If you haven't already, I'll be getting mine next week. So the next episode of the Braxcast will, of course, be me reviewing the 4th issue of the Rippazine, like I've done with every issue of the Rippazine. And of course, we've also had the fulfillment of Yaira'S number 3. Now, I did put this on Hero Stash because I was moving and I wanted to make sure that it didn't get shipped to the wrong address. But that all didn't necessarily have to do that. But I did put these orders in the Hero Stash, so I only have A and D, and half of my order got messed up with these issues that were with the Hero Stash. So the rest of it should be coming next week, and I'll show off all the covers for Yaira'S number 3 when I get them. But for now, I've got Irene's cover A, and I've got Jack Herbert's cover D, which was my review copy for Yaira'S number 3. And while I don't think I did everything quite correct in the Yaira'S number 3 review, I could have gotten some things at the end a little bit better. It is an absolutely stellar book, and please check out the review only if you've read the book and you want to be spoiled, because I really go into spoiler territory with the Yaira'S number 3 review. It's a really fantastic third issue of Yaira'S, and to really do a review justice, in my opinion, you have to go into the spoiler territory because it's just so essential to the story of Yaira'S, of what these things happen that are very big spoilers, but they do give us a lot of insight into the character of Yaira'S, the Rippaverse in general, and it's a very well-structured story. And of course, Deborah Carita, Thiago Gomes, 137 Studios, and of course, Jay Brown, that all did fantastic work on this book. So you definitely ought to check it out along with the other Yaira'S books. But that is Yaira'S 3, Rippazine number 4. That's stuff that is currently fulfilling. We got a launch of a campaign this week. Really exciting for us to get. Horseman number 2 has launched this week. It's already made over $50,000, sold over 1,500 books. It's going to crack that $60,000 mark. So most likely the collection is going to run for a month, fulfill in Q4 of 2025. So we'll be reading the next issue of the Horseman before the end of this year, which is really exciting. So when I said that Horseman number 1 ended on a real cliffhanger and I wanted to find out what's next, I thought it would be a little bit, but of course, the Rippaverse, they like to keep things rolling. So it's really cool to see this second issue of the Horseman come out so soon after the first. It really maintains that momentum, and it really keeps the story fresh in your mind when it's as recent as it has been. Of course, it's not a monthly release, but these books are a bit longer than a month. So Horseman number 1 is probably about 2 months worth of monthly releases. And then, of course, Welcome to Forest Park, you could say that's about 4 issues or so. So we've got a good amount of Horseman for the amount of time that the character has been in the hands of the fans, with Welcome to Forest Park having been filled last November of 24. And of course, Horseman number 1 having basically just fulfilled a couple of weeks ago. And then we already have this second issue. So of course, we've got cover A by Jeans Holland and Candace Hahn. Absolutely fantastic A cover right there. Now, of course, I love the retro covers. They're my probably my favorite covers that the Rippaverse does. And when I did Braxcast Live yesterday, it was a really fantastic episode. A lot of people show up. I absolutely love it when that happens. Saska showed up, very appreciative. And I had talked about this idea of doing a cover tier list. And it's a very daunting to do all the covers, but I believe it was Garfield's Bizarre Adventure who said to just do the retro covers, and I think that's a fantastic idea because all these retro covers are really good. And I know Zalin's, I believe is it cover B? Whatever, the retro cover for Zalin is the one that would 100% win that in the hero list. That's the S tier of the retro covers, and everything else is going to be below that. But I definitely would be interested in doing that. I love these retro covers, even though This is not necessarily as stylized as the other ones in that retro sense, but it's got, all the text on the front. And of course, you got that really classic character box, which is very indicative of the retro comics. And of course, always love that. Approved by the Rippazine Codes of Ethics, and this is by Jeans Holland, and you got Candace Hahn, who is coloring this this cover. Of course, she was the colorist for Great War Separation #1. So really, really fantastic stuff to see with that retro cover. I definitely say it's a requirement to have retro covers, at least one, and we really ought to get a retro cover for Gooding. Because Gooding, the Polymath did not have that. So when we get another Gooding book, it needs to have a retro cover. But this is the foil and embossed cover, cover C. That's very typical for Rippazine. I think the only cover C that we didn't have was, that wasn't foil and embossed, was Isom #1. And that was a bit of an oddity because you had A and B as the limited print cover, C is the mass print, and then cover D was actually the creator's edition, which I have a copy of. I actually have a graded copy of, although it's universal grade. Someone has, I think it's Bruce. I know someone has a signature series of the Isom 1 cover D, which is a really, that's the crown jewel of a collection there for Rippazine slabs. So anyway, this is cover C. This does not necessarily look like Stern, but it looks like someone who's filling in the gap of Tuna, because Horseman talks about that in the trailer. He's going to be dealing more with the fallout of the death of Tuna that happened in Welcome to Flores Park. Horseman #1 was really him getting back on the horse, pun intended, him getting, back into the game, Cal Buxton giving him his gear, him getting the stallion all set up, and then him finally, really just starting to bring the pain to the cartel. And then it ends right there. And so this second issue is really going to be much more action-packed, and him actually dealing with how the criminal underbelly is dealing with not only the Horseman coming into Flores Park, but him returning as well, which is going to be really interesting. It seems like this cover C features one of those main characters. And of course, you've got, a criminal babe who's got a, let's say, revolver pistol. And of course, she's got a bunch of goons around her as well. That's going to be a really fun character to see. Can't wait to see how Chuck Dixon brings not only his character, but all the other characters to life. And now we've got the final one, and that cover was by Ricardo Secchi, and Candace Hahn colored that as well. But this is cover D, the mass print cover. And of course, you've got a big one of our big portrait shot of Cal Buxton. Cal Buxton's going to be a very important character in the Horseman ongoing series, and I do foresee a falling out happening between Cal and Hector at some point, although I think that's going to be something that develops over the issues rather than it happening. So I wouldn't foresee that happening in #2. I wouldn't even foresee that happening in the third or fourth issue, but you'll definitely see tension arising between these two characters as the ongoing series happens. That you might even see a hint of that in the second issue, but of course that's just me speculating. This cover is by Rod Looper and James Frank. Absolutely fantastic cover. I think cover C, which I do have a perfect 10 slab of, that the virgin cover shot of the horse in Horseman #1, Horseman #1 cover C, it kind of has that same, basically like the big shot of the face there, and that's what takes up the entire cover. I do really like this cover, and this could be indicative that Cal is going to be playing a decently sized role in this issue. But like I said, he's going to be an important character for the Horsemen's, for the ongoing series of the Horsemen, at least for the beginning issues. We'll see how his role shapes in the later issues. Like I said, I do foresee there being a falling out, and Horseman going completely on his own and taking all the gear that Cal gave him, or maybe even defecting from Cal being the one who gives him his intel and gear to it being Gooding. Of course, there's been a lot of speculation from the fans that Horseman and Gooding could work together because, Gooding is a tech guy, could definitely give Horseman a lot of good gear. And as I said, when I've had that floated by me, usually on Braxcast Live, I said, Gooding is open to working with anybody. So I think he wouldn't be opposed to working with the Horseman. And he took Michael and Nolan Renashi on as clients. So I don't have any trepidation with saying that Gooding would be unwilling to work with Horseman, or his moral compass would point away from that. So it definitely could be this alternative where he enlists Gooding's services to do what Cal is currently doing for him because he has this falling out with Cal Buxton. But of course, that's just speculation. And like I said, I don't think that's a plot point that's going to be happening in these first issues, because Horsey's just getting back into the game and he doesn't want to have to worry about those logistical things. He just wants to really get the thrill of being that vigilante like we see in the beginning pages of Horseman #1, where he just can't accept the life of a civilian. He has to be doing something like that, because he's battle hardened. He's an absolute veteran. That's what his nervous system is tuned for, and so he can't live this calm life where he's working a day job and running around to get the exercise and just having a family. And the most exciting thing is maybe you go like hiking on the weekends or something like that. He cannot live that type of life. He has to be getting like that thrill of almost dying, of being in the close quarter combats, of the shootouts, of the drug bust, all those sorts of things that Horseman is just starting to do in #1, and he'll be doing in #2 and beyond. But those are the covers, and like I said, this issue is certainly going to be an action-packed one. Of course, Joe Bennett's art is absolutely fantastic. We do have more art, and I showed this on Braxcast live, all of the preview pages, because there's usually about 3 preview pages that they do. But I didn't print all of them out. I wanted to print out the covers, and I've said this before, but printer ink costs more than human blood, so I gotta conserve how much I use, because it's not cheap to get printer ink, and I already had to get replacement cartridges. But I absolutely love doing this. So, but I still have to be selective. I can't print out every single preview page when I already printed out covers. But I definitely love showing off in this format. So the printer will remain, but this is a really cool one. You got Horseman with looks like a Spaz 12, if my knowledge of guns from Call of Duty is correct, and he's just busting through a gang full of criminals. And of course, the shootouts are probably some of the most fun scenes in the Horseman. It looks like he's in some sort of compound. So I imagine this is one of the beginning scenes where, spoiler for Horseman #1, it ends with him busting a cartel. And just as it's getting interesting, it ends. And I imagine this is going to pick up right where it left off, right where it leaves off. He's going to bust this cartel, take all the fentanyl, and make sure it doesn't get to Forest Park, like in the Horseman #1 trailer. And of course, Horseman #2 trailer does have a voiceover by Dean Cain as well. Really cool stuff. And I would really, really hope to see that we get a Horseman animated series, because this character has been very popular. The fans have been really enthralled by the Horseman ever since he was announced at MegaCon 2024. And since then, we've gotten of course, the one-shot graphic novel, which did really well. We've got #1, and we've got #2 on the way. And you combine all 3 of those, it's made well over $1 million. And probably by the end of this year, Horseman will have made over $2 million, especially when you roll in those store sales, which is something that the fans don't really know about. Can't track those. So Edwin Boyette does track Rippaverse numbers based on the publicly available data, as over $3 million in collections this year. And of course, it doesn't count for the store sales, which I think I had someone, I believe IJ on Braxcast Live, talking about probably makes a good amount of money, because the in-demand on Indiegogo campaigns for crowdfunded comics typically do make a good amount of money, and the Rippaverse outperforms basically all of those, consistently making 5 figures, very consistently making 6 figures, which is really hard to do in independent comics. But the Rippaverse does have a good amount of that niche ironed out. And with how consistent the releases are, with how well the site works, for the most part, there are some bumps and hiccups every now and then, but they've got great customer service. So if you have an issue, it gets resolved really quickly, and it's a really easy site to work with in terms of that. But most of the stuff I've gotten has gone through, and it is very typical that every issue I've had gets resolved very quickly. So the good customer service and the fast turnaround is the reason why people keep coming back. And of course, these stories are just fantastic as well. When you got Chuck Dixon, Joe Bennett, you've got the Saskas, you've got Gabe Al-Taib, who did the coloring for Isom 1. Just a really talented team of people. Of course, Jack Herbert working on Great War Separation, Will Conrad doing Gooding. Just fantastic artists the Rippaverse has on staff. Of course, you got Kanan as the lead art director, making sure they're all doing their best work, and it's just fantastic stuff. And even the short story artists, and I want to say even, but you've got Bart Sears for Salvage, You've got Evan Scale, who did great work in Dirty Deeds. So even the side projects have great artists working for them. That's the reason why people keep coming back to the Rippaverse, and that's hopefully why you like watching the Braxcast, to get all the great coverage on the Rippaverse. So thank you guys for watching this episode of the Braxcast. Really nothing else for this, but it's going to be really exciting because we've got Rippazine 4 fulfilling it's in fulfillment, so I'll be getting it this week coming up. So the next episode of Braxcast will be covering that. And of course, they are very well at doing stuff out of left field. So who knows? We might get an Alpha Core 2 collection announced. We might get, Saints and Sinners will probably be fulfilling soon. There's just so much stuff that's going on in the Rippaverse. So we did have a few slow news weeks, but I imagine that's not really going to be the case because they're just going to be hitting the ground running, and they already have. So they've got a really good release schedule. And if you want to keep up with it all, be sure to follow the Braxcast. But that is everything I've got for you guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Joker is out. Thank you for tuning in to the Braxcast. Be sure to like, comment, follow, and subscribe to keep up with the Rippaverse.